So my name is Janet, and I am passionate about higher learning. And specifically, today, I want to talk about the transformative power of getting a university degree. And for those who know me, this is not new. This is, in fact, part of my kind of regular mantra. And in fact, it's a regular topic of raucous debate around my family's dinner table. So my dad, and at least on any given night, one of my brothers, espouse the increasingly popular view that you go to university to do three things. You go to get a job, to make more money, and to move out of your parents' basement. That one is my dad's favorite. And to be clear, I think this is an undeniably important part of the university's mandate. And the evidence of our success is crystal clear. So university graduates enjoy higher rates of employment, and they make more money. A recent report issued by the Council of Ontario Universities affirmed that over a 40-year career period, a university graduate will earn $1.4 million more than their peer with only a high school diploma. Those are really big numbers, and they're very difficult to ignore. I would also suggest that for parents who are really invested in having their kids move out of their basement, that notion, that's really important. When we quantify stuff, it seems bigger. But I want to argue today that focusing only on the university's role in promoting economic self-sufficiency undermines or degrades the true value proposition of getting a university degree in Ontario, in Canada. And I want to draw on language that was coined by Walter McMahon. He talks about the personal or market outcomes of going to university. This is the get a job, earn more money, move out argument. I want to convince you that equal or more attention should be paid to the non-market or social outcomes. So what does McMahon mean by the social non-market outcomes? He talks about the role that universities play in making students healthier, more engaged, active, conscious citizens. So these are the outcomes that last a lifetime, and they have huge social impact. So the theme today is combustion, and I want to talk about the combustion that happens when students invest a tremendous amount of time and energy. Many of you will probably appreciate this. It takes a lot of time and energy to earn a university degree. That the combustion that gets generated through earning that degree transforms learners, and by extension, families, communities, and the planet. It's what happened to me. And I'd be willing to bet it's what happened to many of you. So I feel like I'm well positioned to talk on this subject, not just because I have discussions with my family on a regular basis about it, but I've worked in the sector for about 20 years. But perhaps of more import, I invested 11 years as a learner in postsecondary institutions in Canada and the United States. For my efforts in the classroom, I earned 4 degrees. And throughout that period, I was involved. And I should probably underscore that. I was involved. So I was a varsity athlete, I worked in residence life, I was a member of student government, and I participated in university governance. And to be clear, I got the degrees. But the outcomes that I value most are incalculable. So university gave me a voice. It taught me to think, and it compelled me to engage. To be honest, and this might seem, I guess, obvious, getting a job, I don't know anybody who goes to bed at night and wakes up dreaming about being a vice-provost student. I think it's the best job in the world, so it might seem obvious, but getting a job or making more money was never a driver for me. University has inspired who I am, not what I do. Okay? Now, because it matters, I need to acknowledge my privilege. So I am a white woman who grew up in a home my parents owned. It was full of books, and I came to university in part because my mom and my dad and my grandparents came before me. I didn't work during my undergraduate studies, and I lived on campus. I'm the first person to admit that that matters. Many of the students that I support don't fit that profile, okay? They work 26+ hours a week. They commute over 2 hours a day to get to and from campus. They have partners, dependents, and debt. For many of those students, getting a degree, that promised job, and a living wage has to be the #1 priority. I understand and very much respect that. But what I can say with confidence is that those students are also, or will be, transformed. So the research on this is unequivocal. University has a positive experience on values, attitudes, and quality of life. Okay? What does this look like in practical terms? Take a look at this slide. I'm always shocked that people don't know some of this. But research in Canada and the United States and the UK, Australia, has clearly affirmed that university graduates boast higher levels of tolerance, a lower propensity to commit crime, a greater propensity to vote, volunteer, participate in public debate. They have a greater propensity to trust and tolerate others. They're less likely to engage in unhealthy behaviors, more likely to engage in healthy ones, more likely to engage in preventative health care, less likelihood of obesity, more likely to cope well with distress, and they have more leisure time. This is pretty impressive stuff, and yet it very rarely makes the front page. Quite simply, university drives positive behaviors that serve the public good. And this is why investing in the system is sound and strategic public policy. It's also, in relative terms, an affordable way to drive really important provincial and national priorities. Like what, you ask? I'm just going to speak really briefly to 2 examples. So the first is Ontario's ballooning healthcare costs. Okay? I heard on the drive home yesterday, the CBC reported that by 2015, 1 in 5 Ontarians will be diagnosed as obese. Okay? The cost, indirect and direct, the cost of obesity in Ontario in 2009, 4 years ago, was $4.5 billion. I want to make 2 points. The first is, remember those personal and market outcomes of going to university? Attending and graduating from university undeniably elevates socioeconomic status. The second point is that university graduates are less likely to be obese, more likely to engage in preventative health, and more likely to practice healthy behaviors. Increasing participation rates should be pursued as a strategy for managing healthcare costs. What about the cost of illiteracy? In 2012, 2.4 million Ontarians couldn't read sufficiently well to actively engage in this province's economy. That is egregious. University graduates are positioned to undermine the cycle of illiteracy and associated poverty. University graduates are more likely to read to their children, engage with teachers, and volunteer in schools. You see where I'm going with this? Universities matter. Let's take this down to a slightly more personal level. So in case you were curious, and in the interest of being transparent, I don't have a criminal record. I vote. I participate actively in public debate. I volunteer. I'm not obese. I exercise regularly. I floss. I don't have much leisure time, but you know what? Profiling isn't perfect. The cost of sending me to university was shared. So the Ohio and Ontario governments paid for some. My parents helped with my undergraduate degree, and I worked and I borrowed to finance my graduate studies. I am very biased, but I think all parties got a pretty good return on investment. Okay? My job affords me an opportunity to meet students every day who speak to that notion of positive return on investment. And I have multitudes of examples to draw on, but I want to speak to just one. So Laith Gafoor came to university several years ago. He's a graduate and an alumnus. He was a first-generation university participant. And this is noteworthy because we know that students who come to university when their parents didn't, college or university, face unique challenges. Okay? So Laith came from an inner-city neighborhood, and he earned both an undergraduate and a law degree while he was here. He was the president of the York Federation of Students, and he was a student member of the Board of Governors. Today, Laith Gafoor is the managing partner at Lucentum Sports and Entertainment Law Firm. He writes on subjects of interest, and he provides regular commentary on issues on legal analysis on professional sports. Perhaps more importantly, he's married to a partner he met at university, and they have 2 young, active children. Laith guest lectures at Osgoode Hall. He volunteers by mentoring young leaders, and he sits on the York University Alumni Association board. He is smart and articulate, and by any measure, impressive. On the surface, it probably appears that Laith and I have very little in common. But we shared 3 common experiences at university that I think are of import. The first is that we were both privy to learning experiences that fostered critical thinking skills. The second is that we were engaged, and the third is that we used that engagement to find our authentic voice. So critical thinking skills afford the capacity for people to weigh and evaluate evidence and create rational bases for beliefs. So William Perry argues that at university, students move through stages from being dualist in their thinking, I'm right and you are wrong, to being more respectful of opposing views. In the process, and this is really important, students become better listeners, they become more empathetic, and they become more tolerant. These are really important things in our current world. The world could also use more engaged citizens. On the issue of engagement, Alexander Aston talks about or defines engagement in the university context as the amount of psychological and physical energy that a student invests in purposeful activities. Undeniably, engagement drives positive results. So engaged students earn higher GPAs, they persist at higher rates, and they're more satisfied. When an engaged student leaves campus, they become an engaged citizen. They vote, they volunteer, they participate in public debate. Engagement also drives identity development. In really simple terms, this is a person's conception, perception, and expression of self. It's important because knowing who you are and what you believe is an antecedent of success on the job or in life. It was important for me because it helped me find my authentic voice. And I think authenticity is at the heart of effective leaders. Laith and the multitude of other students that I've met will lead positive change going forward. They'll inspire others, they'll engage others, and they'll pay it forward. There's a quote I like. It's almost a century old, but it speaks to the universities as a corporation for the cultivation and care of the community's highest aspirations and ideals. I could not agree more, and I hope you're convinced. If you are currently a university participant, a learner, You need to deliver on this promise of the university as a driver of social non-market outcomes. If you are a university graduate, you need to live this promise. And if you work in the university system, you need to proudly champion what we do. And finally, if you vote in the province of Ontario, you need to be mindful about the choice you make on election day. I am passionate about higher learning. I am proud of the role that I play in fostering student success, and I am inspired by what graduates will accomplish as both individuals and citizens. Thank you very much.